Action fanatics, welcome to another edition of the Bulletproof Podcast. I'm your host, Chris the Brain. Joining me once again is Ryan Campbell.
Welcome, everyone. We're happy to have you, and we're going to talk about some movies today.
Well, just one, but maybe two. How about you?
Usually, we have your next guest, and that means we're going to talk about probably 50 of them.
I think that's a bit of a slam. We're talking about the Toyman, Chris DePetrillo.
No, come on, Ryan. You got to respect your peers here. We're all on the same page.
I know.
You know what?
You're just really good at the movie train.
Well, no, thank you. I was going to say, this one was kind of tough enough to access, so I think focusing just on this one is probably going to do us the most good. But I'm sure there'll be some references thrown in along the way.
I will say we'll get into that. This again was a first time watch for me, and I have to say I believe I watched this in the most purest way that the director was intended, and that was in 3 parts with ads and inversed.
That's right, Daily Motion for those of you wondering what he's talking about. And you may also be wondering, you may see the thing, he's like, Hard Justice. I thought they were going to talk about American Samurai and the new director's remastered
little drama
was up. The link was up there, then it was taken down, and then it was, and I was just like, you know what? Let's just go with our original plan. And the original plan, when we talked about this probably a month ago off air, we wanted to start getting people that we had not covered. So we did Jeff Wincott, and we probably did one of his greatest films, if not his greatest film, Mission of Justice. Then we did your boy, Toyman, Jerry Trimble.
That's right. Full Contact from 1993, one of the most underrated action flicks of the direct-to-video era.
And again, one of Jerry Trimble's best movies. So why not do one of David Bradley's best movies? And Hard Justice certainly qualifies for one of David Bradley's best.
Absolutely. Probably more known for being the replacement of Michael Dudikoff in the American Ninja series, but Hard Justice was such a hit that the name was actually taken by Vince Russo to give to a TNA pay-per-view coming off of Russo's knowledge of famous direct-to-video films from his video store days.
From his video store days. But yeah, it does appear that American Samurai, the director's cut, is now on the Internet Archive again. So if you are interested, you could check it out there. Perhaps one day we will circle back to that. But before we get into our movie discussion, it's that time of the show, bulletproofaction.com. Last week, I talked about how Counterattack was by far the #1 post for the month of March.
A sleeper hit.
Then Ryan Campbell showed up.
Let's go.
With the Invincible series finale, and it blew Counterattack and everything else out of the water. But that's good news. But yeah, a lot of people excited about that Invincible finale, Ryan Campbell.
Oh, it was amazing. I haven't looked at the score to see if it maintained, but for the first few days, it was only the second TV episode to have a 10 on IMDb rating, right there with the episode of Breaking Bad, Ozymandias. So people were abuzz. It was a fantastic finale to a fantastic season. If you haven't checked it out, go watch it and then go read my thoughts and let me know what you think.
And we still have another exciting edition of No Surrender Cinema to come this month. And
that's right. Yep. Previously did Daredevil. I've got something in the works for next week.
Well, it'll be this week when this lands. So it'll actually be
true.
tomorrow.
By the time this drops.
It'll be tomorrow when this first drops. So check that out.
Kayfabe.
And then later in the week, I will have a Working Man review and a recap of Reacher season number 3, which has been quite good. So I'm looking forward to wrapping all that up. All right, guys.
Oh, before we get into it,
yes,
I do want to give a plug. We are back on YouTube, folks.
Yes.
The Bulletproof Podcast will be going back up on YouTube, and then we're going to be playing catch up for the next few weeks. We're going Thursdays. We're throwing up older episodes. We're going to be slowly catching up with the rest of 2025. But even if you're listening in other areas, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, go head over to the YouTube channel if you don't mind. Drop a subscribe. It certainly helps us out, especially as we shake the dust off and try to remind that YouTube algorithm that we're here and we exist. So if you could head over there, drop a subscribe, maybe, like some videos, do some things, we would certainly appreciate it. But yeah, we will be back on YouTube.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Ryan, because one of the shows from the archives that we put up are Special Sniper Reloaded with guests Chad Michael Collins and Toyman. Old CMC dropped a bombshell I guess it's last week when we're listening to this.
Yeah, we'll say recently.
Yes.
Recently, some big news, some news that it was kind of we had asked him about it and he was unsure, but we finally received confirmation because when we talked to our pal CMC, it was right before Sniper: The Last Stand, the 11th film in the Sniper franchise came out, just released this past January, and he is already back to work, as they say in the industry, I guess, because Sniper 12 is confirmed and CMC back as Brandon Beckett. Reached out to him, shot him a little congratulatory message, and also hoping to get some advance notice or a sneak peek at this one as it is released.
I recently had a conversation with him about Mad Balls.
Equally important.
And
no, Mad Balls are great. I might still have one of mine in my parents'
and I mentioned that I didn't have the Mad Ball. I had like a knockoff version, and I didn't remember the name, so I just called them slightly irritated balls. No, slightly irritated balls. But I think that was for some sort of prescription drug commercial I just saw. But that's all right.
You need some baby powder, brain.
Possibly. But there you go, CMC back at it. And yeah, I'm sure we will have more information on that as he provides it. And, I hope they just keep making these Sniper movies. And I still have to catch up on Sniper: The Last Stand. So that was a good reminder when he dropped that.
That might be another podcast subject.
It very well could be, especially once it hits streaming. I think that might be a good time to cover because more people will have had access to it, and we'll talk about it. But right now,
Netflix subscribers love their Sniper film.
Exactly. Once it hits Netflix, I think we will probably cover it here on the show. Netflix, if you're paying attention, you want to drop that like August 1st. Just you can run some other things by me, but August 1st would be really a great time.
I'm sure they're listening on our new YouTube or on the YouTube channel.
That's right. So there you go. But let's get into it, guys. It's Hard Justice. This one was released on October 1st, 1996 here in the United States. A
great year.
A New Image film. This one was actually number 3 on our Ultimate New Image countdown that we did in 2023 to celebrate 9 years of BulletproofAction.com. So this is in the top tier of New Image films, and I don't disagree. That was that list I was 100% on board with. There's some of these lists we do, and obviously we get other people to come in and give their opinions and try to get as nice of a survey of everything. And sometimes wow, I would never have expected that movie to rank so high. But I was not shocked at all that Hard Justice came in at number 3. And things start off, we're high above Los Angeles. Helicopters flying. We see the skyline. We see the Hollywood sign. We see the opening credits.
Oh, it's I thought that was the Ulihu dude.
You had a little problem over there, but that's okay. What you should have done is positioned a mirror.
Ooh, now we're talking.
You should have put your back to them. It's all right. You'll be fine. You'll just follow along. We meet ATF agent Nick Adams, played by the one and only David Bradley. And he is ready for some action. There's an arms deal about to go down. We got a mobster named Bruno. And there's Jimmy Wong. And Chris, I know you're very familiar with Mr. Wong.
Yeah, Yuji Okumoto, if that name does not ring any bells, it's Chosen from the Karate Kid franchise, Cobra Kai, one of the greatest characters in movie history as far as I'm concerned, especially with how they shifted him in Cobra Kai. But he was really making a name for himself as a villain, usually some type of drug runner, arms dealer, mobster type in movies. He was in Mean Guns, playing a similar role. And he is the adversary here for David Bradley.
He was in Brain Smasher, A Love Story.
That's right. Yes, he
A
was.
lot of Albert Pune movies. He was a Pune regular. So yeah, and here he is as one of the main bad guys. Spoiler alert, because there's several. And yeah, so Nick Adams is going to crash this arms deal, and when I say he's going to crash it, Ryan Campbell, I mean that quite
Oh,
literally.
yeah, he has an affinity for helicopters. That seems to be his like go-to means of transportation.
Mm-hmm.
So he comes straight out of the helicopter, right through the roof, and he ends up kind of facing off with Jimmy Wan. And and I guess he was rolled a 20 for charisma and intimidation, and tried to figure out who his supplier is.
Yeah, they got guns pointed at one another, but then before he got in there, his boss was like, "Hey, we got a guy on the inside. He's up in the rafters, so watch out for him." And the rafter guy just starts shooting. He's going crazy. It's total chaos in this warehouse, Chris.
Yeah, you might even say it's a very dangerous warehouse.
Oh, I think it is. I think
I
it could
think
be.
the most dangerous.
Well, it could be. I definitely would be on a list of somebody did a list of world's most dangerous warehouses. I feel like this one would be on that list.
I don't know if I've ever seen a warehouse that's had so many sustained explosions and fires and gunshots, and like it was still standing. I want to know who made that warehouse, because that is a well-built warehouse.
It's also
You might say it's a bulletproof warehouse.
Oh, you know what else? It's like they also, I think what added to the danger is they were kind of like using it as a parking garage of sorts as well. There were a lot of vehicles in there.
I'm pretty sure on the outside attached was a grocery store as well.
Well, yeah, maybe.
This is starting to sound like one of those Fisher Price play sets, like those all-inclusive,
Exactly.
like every side is a little bit. The
World's most
dangerous play set.
dangerous. Yep, Fisher Price towns.
Well, it's a full-on firefight inside. Bruno's outside. He sent his minion, his bodyguard in there, which was not played by Gary Robbins. And he went in there to kind of finish up this deal. But he comes out. He's like, "We got to get out of here, boss." So they go. If guns weren't enough, grenades start getting introduced into the fray, which is certainly an explosive way to start your movie.
I'm not convinced that grenades are a very effective weapon.
I believe Chad Cruz mentioned grenades and how, they're not very good for like a targeted attack.
It seems like, you never know when they're going to blow up. It could be anywhere between 5 seconds to a full 2 minutes that they sit in their given area before they explode. And they don't seem to ever actually kill anyone. Everyone seems to, they do a flip, but they seem to get away from the explosion.
They kill one, and we're good there. We get some more Nick.
That reminds me of a great story that I heard on the Opie and Anthony show years ago. If you guys are familiar with the comedian Otto, who had the dirty ventriloquist dummy Otto and George.
I only know the bus driver Otto, but go on.
Oh, okay. You know what? Zach will appreciate that reference. He actually dozed off here on his birthday watching The Simpsons. But I digress. So Otto told a story about how when he was coming up in comedy, one of the places that he would frequent was kind of like a known mob street, and there was an old-time mobster that was like, screw my enemies, I'm not going to carry a gun, and he would carry a grenade in his pocket in case anybody dare cross him. And I just think of how that would have gone if you've got a gun trained on you and you're just like, hold on a second, let me just fiddle with this. Give me a second. Just seems a little bit time staking to have a grenade as your main weapon of choice.
I believe that's called a deterrent strategy.
I want to just say that I've dozed off on entire seasons of The Simpsons.
Entire seasons, decades.
I haven't seen it. I've slept on them. But we get more of the Nick versus Jimmy, and boy, oh boy, if it wasn't already obvious, this movie's very John Woo influenced.
Wooed by Woo, indeed.
Jimmy,
were there any doves? Did we see any doves flying around?
No doves.
Okay.
They were crying. Jimmy does manage to get out of the warehouse. Nick is preoccupied. He's trying to outrun the fire that Jimmy has started. But he does get out. There's a foot chase. Jimmy grabs a female hostage. Nick, very focused, sees his opening, shoots Jimmy, but doesn't realize that he had a grenade in his hand. So Jimmy goes over the edge. He doesn't know what's happened there. And this woman, who Ryan Campbell just said nobody dies from a grenade, don't tell this woman's family that, because she's dead.
And not just that. Before she does, she gives a nice long stare into Nick's eyes.
Yeah.
As she's engulfed in flames.
Yeah. It's the type of thing that could haunt a man.
And you would think that with the distance from the scene that she was when she's spotted by Jimmy, that he would have carjacked her or just, shot her and stolen the car. But he actually brings her back closer to the scene of the crime.
Well, the car is broke down.
Well, that's also true. Yeah, she was checking her battery.
That's the reason.
Got me there.
It's a nice little piece of filmmaking. You're like, why would this woman just be sitting here in this extremely dangerous warehouse? Well, her car's broke down.
It just proves that your car never breaks down at the right time or the right place.
And the fact that she didn't hear all the explosions going on in the warehouse next to her, again, speaks to the quality build of that warehouse.
Well, we cut from all that to the bowels of a prison. And there's a bald dude, and he's peeking.
I kept waiting for the Undertaker and Mankind to start wrestling through this place.
It could have happened. There's a bald dude. He sees some strange activity going on. There's crates being moved around. What are they doing in the basement of a prison? It doesn't make any sense. And then there's this rat, and he bites Baldy. And so now they're like, what the hell was that? And these guys go after him, and Baldy makes a run for it, but he is eventually stopped dead in his tracks, and I do mean dead. He dead.
By the strongest hand of maybe ever in history of movies. He's climbing up the ladder, and one arm just kind of reaches through the back of the ladder and grabs his ankle, and that's enough to completely not only keep him in place, but somehow get him to come down the ladder, even though they're through it. Or maybe that was just because I was watching it backwards. I don't know.
Yeah, it could have been.
He's actually upside down on the ladder, climbing down, and he got pulled up.
Yeah, he's going down to the roof, Yeah,
Ryan was also standing on his head while he watched it to maybe help, but it didn't.
I just started spinning in my chair. I thought that would help.
The ATF headquarters. We see Hannah talking to the boss, Larry Dickerson. We find out that bald dude was actually an ATF undercover, Manny. And Manny is the best friend of Nick. And by the way, where the hell is Nick? Well, after the whole grenade dead woman, he went off the grid for a bit. But you know what? Hannah knows exactly where to find Nick.
She's a good listener.
She is. So she finds him exactly where she thought she would find him, tells him the Manny news. Obviously, Nick does not take this too well, and he wants to go see the body. So they head down to the corner. There's Dr. Ellis. Ryan Campbell. It's that time.
Oh, there we go. I get nervous about this now.
It's that time. Arthur Roberts played Dr. Ellis. Did you recognize him from anything?
Oh, man. Was he in Revenge of the Ninja?
Very good.
Oh, ding, ding, ding. You got it.
He was the friend of Shokasugi, the Silver Mask Ninja. And he was also has a small role in a fantastic film that I know you've seen. It's called Chopping Mall.
Oh, who is he in Chopping Mall?
He is the father of which one, Chris? Susie? No. He's the father.
So yeah, that would have been a pretty small role.
Yeah, right at the beginning. He's at the beginning.
He was billed as Mr. Todd.
Yeah. Leslie Todd. Leslie is his daughter.
Yep.
She goes with Deathstalker man, John Trelette.
Yeah, he was also in The Fall Guy.
Yep, which I've been watching lately now that the first 2 seasons are on Prime. I've been rewatching episodes of The Fall Guy with Zach.
Very exciting.
Calvin Haig.
But yeah.
This may be funny, but I think I remember him from General Hospital only because like my dad would watch that, and I remember just kind of like coming home from school and I don't know, him watching like General Hospital. Maybe that is something I subliminally.
That's how it was with Days of Our Lives in my family.
Yeah.
But
I was a General Hospital kid when my mom would be watching it.
Mr. Roberts, I mentioned this to Brain years ago, so you might forget this little nugget of information, but one of the most uncomfortable endings to a movie I've ever seen actually came from a Skinamax flick
Oh yeah.
called Friend of the Family 2,
Oh no.
and Arthur Roberts played the main male character's boss.
Hmm.
So he was actually present for said uncomfortable scene at the very end.
Check it out on Bulletproof Podcast After Dark coming soon.
That's right.
YouTube.
It's gonna be maybe. Yeah, I was gonna say maybe that will get people to over to the YouTube channel.
All the Skinamax and USA Up All Night hits.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about them all. So now Nick wants to know what Larry's doing about, I mean, one of our guys just got killed. What are you doing about it? And he's like, I want on this. I want to go into the prison, and I want to do it. But Larry's like, no, the case you're on is the top priority, but the man's been off the grid, so how much of a priority could it be, Larry?
Yeah, clearly there's been no developments in this case.
But Nick isn't going to take no for an answer. He's like, get me inside, and you know what? I only want me and you to know about it. And boy, that seems like a great idea, Chris. Like that,
Has that
no
ever
way.
gone well for anybody?
I was gonna say that is batting 0 in movies when something like that happens.
That possibly won't bite him in the ass, will it? Of course not. Nick gets his wish. Next thing we know, he's being corralled in with a bunch of other new inmates, and we meet Warden Pike, Charles Napier.
One of the greatest character actors of all time.
Classic.
He was the mayor in one of your favorite films in Mindbrain, Original Gangsters.
Oh boy.
Had to throw that one in there. But yeah, I mean, he's got quite the resume.
Of course, yeah. Rambo: First Blood Part 2.
I think Austin Powers is probably
Austin Powers.
One I probably first.
The Blues Brothers.
The Incredible Hulk returns.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Dino Croc. Who could forget Dino Croc?
Nobody. We also meet Head Guard Riggs and his ugly stick, and Nick becomes quite acquainted with the ugly stick after not answering the question properly. After that beating, they decide, hey, let's put Nick in with Mr. Clean. There's an opening there. And they take him to the cell, and boy, these cells at this prison are quite spacious, I have to say.
You got room for trinkets and toys. And
Yeah,
luckily,
like a workbench.
Luckily, he's in the cleanest one because he's in there with Mr. Clean.
Right.
I assume that is where he got the nickname.
I don't think so, because he complained about all the clutter. I think he got the nickname because he's big and bald.
But not a bastard?
Oh, he's a bastard, all right. And he's also making for an uncomfortable cellmate, because he immediately refers to Nick as sweet meat, and then asks, is you the husband or is you the wife?
So something else is trying to bite Nick in the ass.
Oh.
Mr. Clean was in Armageddon, The Rock, Scorpion King. Man, this guy's got quite the...
He's like...
You don't even have a picture on
right.
IMDb, but he's like the Forrest Gump of like Bayverse action movies. Just kind of like lingers in the background and there's all these things. I know he wasn't Armageddon. He's the biker at the strip club who says you're hogging all the action.
He's like an American version of Gary Robbins.
Pretty much. I wonder if he has a pro wrestling bona fides.
I'll have to check into that. So these two go at it. They're not in that way. It's a brawl. It's a fight. And they're going toe to toe, and they both realize that they are fellow Marines, and respect has now been earned. We've gone from enemies to friends, just like that, Chris.
Yeah, he's like, look, I'm just trying to do my time, and I don't need someone trying to bunk up with me.
Right.
So they basically bond over their shared, service experience and the fact that Nick's not going to take any shit from Mr. Clean.
Right. Correct. And then we get a bunch of prison tropes, like one right after the other, Ryan. Nick is almost shanked. There's trouble in the mess hall.
I'm going to be honest. I kind of needed this, though, because I had up until this point, I was having like a hard time associating this with a prison just because it was so dark
right.
and it just wasn't giving off any of the prison vibes. Like it took a while. I'm like, is this like an off the book prison? Like, what is this prison?
Right.
And
Well,
so
I mean,
these scenes kind of helped ground me in the fact that, okay, yes, this is a prison. Just an oddly, very dimly lit one.
What do they need light for?
Because they need to do all their dirty deeds in the shadows. That's why.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, he almost gets, there's trouble in the mess hall. That's where he gets into it with Chow and Lee, who we find out are some of Riggs's boys. So then Nick, of course, is thrown into solitary because that's what you do. When he gets out, we get a scene out in the yard, and Mr. Clean is giving Nick the lay of the land, who's who, points out Squid, who is referred to as the general store of the prison. You need anything, you go to Squid. And as it turns out, Squid was also Manny's former cellmate. And so obviously,
Squid also reminded me of what's his name, Miguel Nunez, the guy that played Juana Man,
yes,
and he was in Return of the Living Dead. Very, very similar features. Reminded me a lot of him.
I would agree. And the baddies see that Squid was talking to Nick, even though it was ever so brief. And he gets punished for that, Ryan Campbell. They don't like that. They don't want anybody talking to this pretty boy Nick.
Yeah, sometimes being in any way associated or befriending the new guy is because they got to put that guy in his place, and they don't want him befriending anybody. They want him to feel about as alone as possible. And this is before they even know who Nick really is, so it's only going to get worse for Nick.
Only going to get worse. And then we get a classic laundry room dust up.
It's just a greatest hits, one after the other.
Yeah, as you said, if you weren't sure that this was a prison movie or even a prison, you now know without a shadow of a doubt. Nick pays a visit to one man who had even more info and more connections and more power than Squid. I'm talking about Galaxy 500, which is an interesting name.
What a name.
For a human being. It sounds more like a car. Maybe a rapper if it was going to be anybody. Like Andre 3000. Played by Vernon Wells. Ryan Campbell.
Yes.
Vernon Wells. Where have you seen him before?
Let's see.
Don't go to Google, Ryan Campbell, off the top of your head.
I'm not. I feel like it's something we watched recently, but we watched too much stuff.
There's a lot of people screaming right now at you. A lot of people.
I mean, probably the first time you saw him, he was blowing off some steam.
Oh, yeah, that's a nice clue.
Commando?
That's right. He's Bennett.
Give it up for the boy, folks.
Good job.
Trying to get better.
Good job.
Trying to get better.
Yeah, and he's Mad Max.
Let's not forget that he's featuring a Mike Tyson style tattoo in this film.
Yes, he's looking good.
Looks like Ted DiBiase.
He does. That's true. There you go. He tells does Galaxy pronouns. Galaxy tells Nick that Manny wasn't killed by anyone in the joint. So that those hands that we saw didn't belong to anybody in the staff, didn't belong to one of the fellow prisoners. Ooh, who was it?
It certainly looked like whoever that was wearing like a coat, so it didn't give off inmate vibes.
Mm-hmm. Well, Galaxy confirms that. Nick is visited by his attorney. It's really just Hannah. And she's there, and she's like, okay, you should get out of here. But Nick's like, no, this is the only way. We're going to find out. But Hannah does manage to smuggle Nick some money in, hides them in batteries, and hands them his...
Pretty ingenious way to smuggle it in.
Yeah. And...
because, something that most inmates have on them at any given time, batteries.
Well, it was the batteries in the radio. She didn't just hand him batteries.
One. compartment.
Like here's a pack of C batteries. Enjoy yourself. Put them in a sock. You could use them as a weapon.
For
No.
a guy who's been thrown into solitary and getting beaten on by this relentless guard, he sure does get a lot of perks.
He does. Yeah, he's got one of the biggest cells. He's got a radio, but we'll see. That doesn't last very long.
Well, I mean, manslaughter's got to be probably one of the easiest raps for anybody that's in there. It almost seemed like they had to be somewhat skeptical that someone with just manslaughter would even be in that facility, but they never questioned it.
Well, no. So Hannah, after she meets with Nick, goes and finds her informant named Webster, not Emmanuel Lewis. And
talk about brain.
That's Gary. That's Gary Coleman.
I know, it's the common thing. That's what I was doing.
Oh yeah, that's what you were doing. She wants like, hey, what are they moving through that bridge? Because there's stuff coming in and out of there. What's going on? And Webster's like, he doesn't know right now. Back at the prison, Nick in Clean's cell is being tossed by the screws, is the note I put on here, because that's prison talk.
That's prison talk.
And
that comes after legal talk fails.
Right. When legal talk fails, you got to start talking prison talk. And next thing you know, a scene very reminiscent of Death Warrant, Chris, because there's a new prisoner in town.
A new prisoner that we're already familiar with, and that unfortunately Nick is familiar with because his deep cover operation is about to get blown wide open because here comes Jimmy Wong down the aisle.
Yeah, definitely one of those oh shit moments. And the movie does a good job of really, like, you feel the shift change when he walks through that door.
Now, the one thing about that scene, though, is when Jimmy Wong sees him, instead of pointing it out, saying something, or even himself being shocked, he's almost like, hey, what's up? Oh, it's you. Whereas Nick's like, oh shit, like I gotta think fast, like time for plan B. Whereas Jimmy Wong's just like a cocky SOB, like he's just unfazed by it.
Yeah, it really puts Nick in a terrible position because I think we as the audience have a little more information than him at this given point. And he really has no cards up his sleeve at this point, because the next movie he's going to do is probably one of the dumber things he can do. And so, yeah, this kind of just throws a wrench in the entire thing.
Yeah, he requests to meet with Warden Pike, comes clean. Hey, I'm an undercover ATF agent. You got this Jimmy Wong in here now. He's going to blow my cover. You could verify everything I'm saying to you with my boss, Larry Dickerson. And Warden's like, you know what? All right, I'll do that. But, you know, you're going to be going. Why don't you go take a shower? Take him to the shower. Get him cleaned up because he's going to be out in the world. We don't want the world thinking we have dirty people in here, I guess.
We talked a few weeks ago about watching movies back after you've kind of seen them and how you recontextualize the movie. Boy, this scene is awkward when you recontextualize it after the movie.
So he does take his shower. He gets his towel on and he goes to leave. And that's when we get another great prison trope, the shower fight. And man, I want to commend David Bradley on his towel tying skills, because he's flipping around and kicking around and that towel stays on the whole time. Usually you put towel on, you sneeze, the whole thing could come down. But this guy, he's got it done right. He knows what he's doing.
Those are prison towels.
Must be where Val Venus learned how to wear a towel in action.
Yeah, you're right.
Those are the starchiest towels you can think of. That thing's locked in.
So he's fighting.
Ooh, I don't know if that's a good thing, Ryan Campbell.
And so the shower fight ends when Jimmy sneaks up from behind him and stabs him with a knife. Need to clarify,
since a chef's knife.
Since we're in a shower scene, it could have gotten from behind.
Yes, this was a prison shanking, not a prison spanking.
All right. Now Webster gets word to Hannah that whatever's going on at the prison, there's a heavy shipment coming in the day after tomorrow. So, okay, we get a little bit more. When Nick wakes up, he's in the infirmary, and who's in the bed next to him but his boy Squid? And he's like, Squid, I got to get out of here. This Jimmy Wong's going to kill me. Do you happen to know if there's any way out? And the way out is you have to go down to the basement and get to an elevator that takes you to the roof. It's like chutes and ladders up in this bitch. I don't know what's going on.
You got to go down to go up.
Got to go down to go up is exactly what he says. So he gives him the directions. Nick finds himself in the same exact spot that Manny was in. Suspicious activity and all, but it's his own mortal enemy, Jimmy, unloading the crates. He notices a number on one of the crates, makes a note of it, and then we get the frickin' rat again. I think it's the same damn rat.
I think these rats are in on it.
Yeah, they try to rat him out and
That's right.
almost do so, but he does not go down that exact same path as Manny. He gets into the elevator, but then some guards come, but he gets up on the top of the elevator. So he basically just hitching a ride. Gets up to the roof. It's looking good here. I'm thinking, it'd been so long since I saw it. I'm like, oh, does he get out here and then come back with, because it's going well for him, Chris. Everything's moving. He's under the truck. The truck's about to go out the gate. And then the alarm sounds.
So close.
And yeah, and that doesn't deter him. He still is trying to find a way out, trying to avoid capture. But right when you think, oh, close call, caught again, back into solitary. It's almost comedic at this point that this very harsh condition prison, there's a lot of shady shit going on, and the worst that they've been doing is throwing him into solitary, even after having him set up in the shower for attempted murder.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I feel like the movie starts dragging a little bit for me in this point because there is this little bit of like everybody is in the same location and it's a very like closed loop. And why in the world wouldn't they just kill him at any of the given opportunities that they've had to kill him? And it just kind of like doesn't really present a good logical reason why they're keeping him alive, but it's not too bad. It's fine. We get through it. But I'm starting to think a little bit at this point, like, okay, come on.
Well, mob boss Bruno is on the phone with the warden, and he wants the guns that he paid for, so he's pissed off. Hannah shows up again, so now Warden Pike has to deal with her, but he's like, you can't see your client. You got to come here on visiting hours, which is the first Tuesday of every month, blah, 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 blah. Now, you can either leave on your own, or I can have you escorted, so she leaves. And just walks by like a prisoner. It's Squid, and he hands her a note from Nick. But would that even be a situation where a civilian is just walking by a frickin' convict? I don't know. I have never visited a prison. I've never been in a prison.
I mean, if you have like a minimum security work detail type of person, but this seems to be a very...
Right. Like this is bad people.
More than that, they also wouldn't be just walking down like cells.
Right.
Like they have a whole separate area that you would probably be
exactly. But
yeah, you usually have to be brought in there on purpose.
Mm-hmm. So she goes, but she gets the note, and the bad guys see that Squid gave her a note, so they turn him into Swiss cheese, as Galaxy will say. They just firing squad his ass.
Right open in the prison, like nobody heard this?
No. And again,
I would assume most of the people that are within the prison kind of have seen people disappear and just know kind of, they might not know all the details, but they know just to keep their heads down.
And again, why didn't they just do that to Nick?
Yeah, exactly. At this point, he's more a threat to, and obviously he's exposed who he is and everything like that. And I don't know. Yeah. It seems like just getting rid of him, getting him out of the way would have been best for business. And all it really would have took was like one scene with that and Jimmy, where Jimmy's like, I want him to suffer. I want to make it last kind of thing. And that probably would have gone a long way to just been like, okay, that's why. Because Jimmy's the overconfident, vengeful, bad guy.
Mm-hmm. So Hannah gets a hold of Larry. He's like, you got to get Nick out right. Oh, I'll start no, you got to get him out right now. Oh, yeah. So now we're back to the mess hall. And Chow and Lo, or is it Lee? Chow and Lee they have a big buddy they want Nick to meet. And we've seen him recently in one of Ryan's favorite movies of all time, Missing in Action to the Beginning.
We've seen him a few times.
It's Professor Toru Tanaka.
That's right.
Allegedly.
Also in Blade Runner, Running Man.
Correct.
And in that movie, he's literally called the Professor. He goes by his own name.
Professor Sub-Zero, yeah. And this was his final role, I believe. From what I should have dug deeper. I saw the little IMDb trivia, and that's not always correct.
That is kind of a rough way to go out, though.
I mean, yeah, he comes up. It's a great scene. It's like, okay, and Nick hits him, and then he goes down like a tree. And
it's almost like a comedic scene.
Yeah, it's a bit odd.
There's like a cracking noise. It almost sounds like he's like,
yeah, like he is
like he's made of ice or something.
Yeah.
He just cracks and falls over.
He's Sub-Zero.
Yeah, like it's like that timber type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was an interesting scene, and now Nick has to go back to Galaxy 500 because Squid is no longer an option, and that's what Galaxy 500 tells him. And Galaxy 500 also is like, I'm not thrilled that you're a cop, but at least you're a good cop, not like these dirty cops we got in here. So now,
convict with a conscience.
Yeah, now we've got Jimmy, and here's where, like you said, Ryan, they could have kind of like, all right, man, you know what? I'm done screwing with this guy's head. Let's just kill him. Because there's no need to keep Nick alive. And it's like, well, was there ever a reason to keep Nick alive? What was he bringing to the table? Again,
I'm even trying to think too about.
If you said like Jimmy's like, just like maybe he already knew he was there. Maybe they already. I mean, obviously they knew because, well, we don't know yet, but it would have made sense.
I mean, if you want to fill in some gaps in the shower scene, he does say that he's gonna like let him heal and then do it again. So like there is some seeds planted that
like
he
a
is
torture type thing.
Yeah, like he's enjoying toying with him, so maybe that's part of it. But yeah, I think like maybe like one or two extra lines of dialogue could have helped kind of shore that up.
Yeah. And again, that's a pretty minor complaint.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It is out there, and we should point that out.
At least it didn't take 10 years for him to finally do something.
You're right, Ryan. So then Jimmy's like, "Hey, everybody, this guy here, Nick, he's a freaking cop," and so they let him out of the cell. And what are you gonna do about it? Meanwhile, Hannah is checking that number that Nick gave her. And that's when we find out that no good Larry Dickerson has been involved in all this. He's been taking these guns and that were set to be destroyed and putting them back out in the world. Now they're untraceable because as far as the records show, they've been destroyed.
Putting the Dick in Dickerson, Larry turning heel on his compatriot, which again was a bit of an odd choice. I mean, it does make sense that you want to align him, but we've got a lot of villains in this piece with only one true hero. Nick is really the guy out for revenge, trying to figure out what happened to his friend. And you've got Jimmy Wong, you've got the Warden, you've got Riggs, and now you've got Larry Dickerson, all as, pretty high level baddies.
Yeah.
That's why I was talking about when you go back to that scene where he's like trying to tell him that he's an undercover cop. Like, man, you are barking up the wrong tree in more ways than you even know.
Yeah. So, where were we? She finds out Dickerson. Dickerson catches her when she's in his office because she finds out there that Pike and Dickerson were in Nam together. So these guys go way back. And now he's going to go to the prison. He's going to bring her along because this is where we're going to get the big shipment that's got to go to Bruno that he's paid for. Got to make things right with our big client, the mob guy. But meanwhile, inside the prison, it's just like now it's a full-scale riot. And Nick and Clean are trying to get to the basement, but then that bastard Riggs steps in, eliminates Clean. So now we get Nick versus Riggs and a little bit of revenge from what happened earlier and all the times that Riggs threw Nick in solitary, Chris.
Yeah, giving the man himself a little bit of a beat down with his own ugly stick.
Much deserved, you bastard, Riggs. Now,
Rick's kind of a low key, like good setup villain.
mm-hmm.
Like doesn't get like any really character development, but he's just like a constant like nuisance to Nick, and it was cathartic to see him finally put him down.
He's like Bald Bull on Punch Out. He's not the main guy, but he's enough that you got to really try to get by him.
Right, you just get frustrated because he's just constantly blocking you from what you're trying to get to.
Nick confronts Pike, and now that's where we get the whole three-headed dragon here. It's like Dickerson is the one who killed Manny, and he's the one giving the weapons to Pike and hiding them. Where who's going to think, oh, there's weapons in the basement of a prison? No one's thinking that. And then they had Jimmy as their underworld salesman to go to his other underworld friends to sell these things. So they had this whole scam perfected, obviously, until Manny got involved, and then that got Nick involved. And Pike's like, you know what?
Now with how
What's that?
Oh, finish Brain, and then I'll jump in.
I was gonna say, and then Pike's like, all right, you know what, guys? You go take care of these. Make sure the shipment gets loaded up. I'm gonna handle Nick personally.
I would say with how convoluted the structure of this arms deal is, and the fact that Nick wanted to go into the prison to find out what's up with Manny, I can see Larry being like, all right, you know what? You want to go in there? Fine. Like, that's on you. But looking back on all the times that we've talked about where they had a chance to off Nick and they didn't, don't you think that Larry should have been like, look, I'm sending him to you. Just kill him the first chance you get.
Right, Larry.
And instead they let him live. So they brought this upon themselves.
Yeah, Larry damn well knew how good Nick was. So yeah, foolish bad guys. Instead of doing the classic, all right, you're gonna put you in this situation where you're gonna die and we're not gonna look. They just kept looking at him alive the whole time. I don't understand what they were doing. Galaxy does step in here, which gives Nick a chance to get some distance between he and Pike, and then allowing him to just shoot him up good.
Charles Napier chewing the scenery in those final moments.
Yeah.
I will have order.
Yeah.
Double fisting Uzis. Just kind of like a great over the top villain scene.
Yeah, he was, he had built this kingdom for himself and it was crumbling down around him, and he was not facing that reality too well. Jimmy, meanwhile, has made it to the prison bus. That is where they were loading up the weapons. And Nick comes out, and here comes Jimmy, tries to run Nick down. Doesn't happen. Meanwhile...
Second time in a few weeks we've seen someone race a bus.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Nick was faster than the bus right away. It didn't take him several tries. Dickerson, meanwhile, has Hannah, and they're going to go... There's a helicopter. They're getting out of there. But they have a stowaway of sorts, because Nick catches up, jumps up, catches the skids of the helicopter as it's taking off. Then he gets up, reaches up as the helicopter is now airborne, pulls Dickerson out of the cockpit. The two are dangling off the ski. They're fighting. They're hanging on. Nobody, Ryan Campbell, is flying this thing for a few minutes.
Yeah, I was a little worried about Hannah. I don't know. She's just passed out laying on the floor. I don't know how the rocking back and forth, she didn't just slip her way straight out of the helicopter.
She lucked out.
But some really good stunt work here in the whole final kind of moment set piece of this film. And I have to imagine they were a little more lax with safety and stunt work back in this time. So I'm going to say eat your heart out, Tom Cruise. These two were going for it, handing off this helicopter.
And fortunately, Chris, apparently all ATF agents have the ability to fly a helicopter.
Yeah, not only does she regain consciousness, but she immediately jumps in and starts flying it so that they don't, fall or crash, and have impending doom set upon them all, while Nick manages to dispose of the dick, Larry Dickerson, with a kick.
And it's not like she just like, okay, I know enough about it that I could get this thing so it doesn't crash. I mean, because she's going to be asked to do some pretty fancy maneuvering with this helicopter momentarily after Larry Dickerson is kicked off. And of course, conveniently, lands. There's like nothing around except one car, and that's what he lands on.
And I did really like the whole fall shot. They like spliced in multiple different videos, and there's plenty of movies where you just get the like fall shot, the high shot and watch them fall. They had another one that was almost like a POV shot of like, I assume it's him, but it's the camera looking up at the helicopter as it falls, and like the helicopter gets like smaller in view. It was a really cool, and I couldn't think of another movie where I've gotten like the person falling's point of view in a bad guy fall at the end of a movie sequence. So I thought that was a really cool little bit that they slipped in there.
Kudos to you, Hard Justice.
Well done, movie. He got hard justice when he hit that car.
Yeah, he did. Now Nick is in there and he's like, oh, there's the bus. We got to catch it. So Hannah's flying this thing right alongside the bus. Nick's shooting at it, but they're shooting back at him. It's like, oh, that's not going to work. So now Hannah gets above the bus and Nick does one of his famous drop downs.
Not before he asks her like 10 times to get closer.
Yeah.
We saw the entire, get closer. No, not yet.
Yeah, not yet.
A little closer. It's just going on. And like you said, she apparently has the skills to get right on top of that
there.
bus.
She does it. He gets to the roof of the bus. Of course, the natural thing for our baddies to do is to shoot up through the roof. When that doesn't work, they go out for him. One of them gets tossed right off. It's a beautiful bump he takes. And now Nick has to climb down, and he's hanging on the side of the freaking bus, trying to fight with Jimmy. And Chris, they're causing this is a hazard on the road. Guy hanging off there.
From flight hazards to road hazards.
Awful. It's just a big explosion. Then the bus drives off, crashes through a gate, goes rolling down a hill. And at this point, Hannah has now landed the helicopter. She runs over to the wrecked bus. Nick's coming from the other direction. But that damn Jimmy, Ryan Campbell.
He just keeps coming back.
Classic. And he survived. He grabs Hannah, and we get ourselves some serious deja vu. But there's an exception. Because Hannah she's not just a damsel in distress, Chris.
That's right.
She can handle her own. She's with the AT mother effing F.
Yeah, she decides to fight back, so it's a little bit of a 2-on-1 situation. She gives Nick the opening to fire the kill shot. We've kind of bookended the film with showdowns between Jimmy Wong and Nick, and this time the grenade comes into play again, but it proves to be the undoing of Jimmy Wong. He went to the well too often.
Just a wonderful ending to this movie, and good triumphs over evil, as it often does in action movies. And end credits roll. And now for the final thoughts for your first time watch of Hard Justice, Ryan Campbell. What do you got to say?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I really like the narrative element of Nick being in the prison for the death of the woman at the beginning. I thought that was a nice little bit. I know we joked earlier about like he wouldn't really be in this facility for manslaughter, but the fact that like that's what he's beat himself up over, and when he describes why he's in there, they say manslaughter, but when he's talking to Mr. Clean about why, and he expresses it, because he was trying to do the right thing and this lady died. So like he's beat himself up over it. Like that's literally why he is imprisoned himself in there, is because of this mistake he made. And then he kind of gets a little bit back at the end when he finally shoots the grenade and blows up Jimmy. So I kind of like that overarching narrative throughout the film, but yeah, it was really good. Like I mentioned, there's just a little bit of drag in there in the middle, in the second act, but not too bad. We got through it. Helps that we mentioned I was watching this on 3 different sections, and the third section said that it was 40 minutes long. And I was like, as we're getting towards the end of the second one and the movie's wrapping up, I'm like, how is there 40 more minutes left of this movie? And that was kind of maybe contributing to my feelings a little bit, right. But turns out that was only like 10 minutes of it. And then it just restarts again. So wasn't that bad, but I really enjoyed it. Good movie.
Toyman.
We've talked about this one for years. This is probably my favorite David Bradley movie that does not have the words American Ninja in the title. Great ensemble cast. My only issue with it is that this one has kind of fallen by the wayside. We were joking off air. You call this one hard to watch justice because it's not on any of the streaming apps, not even on YouTube. I was able to find it without digging out my old DVD copy, but this might be one that we've got to get on that list
I was
for,
going to say, yeah.
MVD, Vinegar Syndrome. This is definitely one that deserves it. This is just a fun movie. It does have some slight lulls to Ryan's point, but overall, it's just kind of nonstop, fight scene after fight scene. The director of the film, actually, Greg Yataines, is the executive producer of a show that I have always recommended to you, and I'll recommend it to Ryan Campbell as well. But Banshee, which was a big hit on Cinemax, which is still streaming on the Max app. But he was the executive producer of that show, and that became one of my favorite shows of all time. So kind of cool to see that he was cutting his teeth on something that I loved back in the day as much as something that was more recent.
Yeah,
I feel like I remember that. I don't think I ever watched it, but I remember that being a thing. Banshees.
It's an excellent show, and I highly recommend it. I think you would really enjoy it.
Hard Justice was definitely something on YouTube whenever it was that I reviewed this movie many, many years ago. I actually ended up finding it on VHS. I think probably back in 2023 when we were really gearing up for the big new image countdown. And I'm like, one that I need to see again. And I think I wanted to show Mr. Matt Spector. I'm like, you got to see this one. This is one of the better new image from what my memory said. And when we watched it, I'm like, yep, I wasn't wrong. And watching it again here tonight, I was not wrong. It is an excellent film, and it does benefit from the Charles Napiers, from the Vernon Wells, from the Yuji Okumoto. It has a good cast, which is something we talked about in those Roddy Piper movies that we covered earlier this year. You had Roddy Piper, you had Billy Blanks, and then you didn't have a lot of people. So it's good to have that those familiar faces. I think that adds to it. And to your point, Ryan, some of the stunts that they did, the John Woo inspiration in a lot of the scenes as well. This is a very good action vehicle for Mr. David Bradley. And this was one that, obviously American Ninja is what he probably is most known for, but a lot of people, and I will put myself in that group at one point, almost held that against David Bradley, that he took Dudikov's spot, where this is a thing where he's just doing it all on his, this is his own thing. And obviously in later years, you'd find out Dudikov didn't want that spot. And so it's like, he didn't take it away from him, but that's another story for another time. But yeah, David Bradley, Hard Justice, one of your best movies. Glad we finally got David Bradley checked off the list, because it was
another unsung hero.
Exactly. He deserved it. And again, if you were like me and holding a grudge against David Bradley for the American Ninja thing, don't do that. He has some great movies, and this is one of them. The Cyborg Cops are very entertaining. Also, New Image movies. I think New Image really helped further establish David Bradley, where he wasn't just piggybacking off of something that already existed. So, David Bradley, if you're listening, you are awesome, sir.
Well done.
Well done indeed.
We salute you.
We certainly do. And you know what? If you want to salute David Bradley and let us know about it, you could do so on social media. We are at Bulletproof Pod on X and Blue Sky, at Bulletproof Action on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, and I'm pretty sure we're at Bulletproof Action on the YouTube as well. Are we not, Ryan Campbell?
That is, yes. Bulletproof Action or Bulletproof Podcast. Either way, we'll take you there. But yeah, like I said, please go head over there, drop a subscribe, if nothing else, just to help us out. Helps the algorithm, helps YouTube kind of realize that we're back in the game, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, we will again be adding to the archives, and all the new episodes will go up the same day they go up everywhere else. So keep an eye out for that. Speaking of podcasts, I mentioned this before, by the time this drops, I will have recorded with Matt over at the DTVC podcast. We are talking Martial Law 2 Undercover. with Jeff Wincott and Cynthia Rothrock, and that one really had a whole star-studded cast that I had forgotten about. And so I will let you guys know when that is available. And again, I want to put over, Chris, have you listened to any of them yet? The PM Entertainment Podcast.
It's been a busy week, so I have not gotten to them. I have them bookmarked to listen to, but yeah, I am very interested to hear some more talk about PM Entertainment. We've done some PM talk on air and off air, but I like to see that this podcast has a focus on one of the best action film companies to come out of the 90s. A lot of my favorites from that video store era were produced by PM, so I am definitely looking forward to catching up on these, especially with Rage being episode 2.
Yeah, as we record this, we're not sure what episode 3 will be yet, but I'm anxious to find out, and probably will be tuning in on Friday. That's becoming my Friday work companion, the PM Entertainment Podcast. Now, do you guys know what next week is when our next podcast will drop on April Fool's Day?
I think I know.
April Fool's Day. And we are going to be watching a movie that you'd have to be a fool to watch voluntarily. We're going to be watching Black Belt 2. Ryan Campbell, have you watched Black Belt 1 yet?
I have not. No, I will try to get that this weekend before Black Belt 2.
I have never seen Black Belt 2. It will be a fresh experience for me, but I've heard nothing but horrible things about it. And will probably regret watching this movie, but maybe we'll have fun talking about it on our very next podcast, which will drop on Tuesday, April 1st, April Fool's Day, for Black Belt 2. All right, final words, Toyman.
I am definitely looking forward to the next episode. I mean, who am I kidding? I look forward to every episode with you guys, but the next one should be a doozy, if I can make myself sound like an 80-year-old woman. Black Belt 2, I've reviewed it previously. I've mentioned it in jest many times, and it will be very interesting to see you guys, especially Ryan Campbell, getting a fresh perspective of watching the original Black Belt and pretty much doing the immediate follow-up. I know you're well-versed in the first film already, but it should be interesting because there's just going to be a lot to say about it, for better or for worse. And also, please make sure, as always, to check out figurestoycompany.com to support my ventures in the world of action figures and accessories. Whether you are a fan of wrestling, superheroes, the Three Stooges, old school style, modern day wrestling figures, whatever your choices are, you can find them at figurestoycompany.com.
Ryan Campbell, anything else you want to say before we go home on this one?
No, just to reiterate again, the Invincible is still up. If you haven't checked it out or you're catching up in the season because you've heard about all the buzz, go check out. The last 3 episodes were fantastic. So go read those reviews. And coming up soon, we've got Andor season 2. I'm super excited about that. There's a little bit of details leaking out. It sounds like it's going to be an all-timer, really interesting. And then Last of Us 2 also coming up in April. So it's going to be a busy April for series, so make sure you're following along.
All right. Again, bulletproofaction.com. Encourage you to go there all the time, every day, 10 times a day if you want to, because we do put stuff up there all week long. So check that out. And thank you for checking out this podcast. And as always, stay tuned for more of the Bulletproof Podcast.